class. The goal for today's lesson is to complete this worksheet, which deals with this new idea of molar mass. So we are done with organic chemistry. We've covered all the things we need to cover, and we are moving into our quantitative chemistry unit, which means that we're going to be doing some calculations. This is going to be a little bit tough to do remotely because it's always a little bit frustrating to do math without someone there to guide you. But it also means that we can take advantage of a lot of cool digital tools to help us with this rather than having to do everything with pen and paper and a calculator. Okay, so this first activity, you're going to be accessing two digital tools. One of them is just a periodic table. So when you first click on this Google form to get started, you can open that periodic table, and it's a pretty nice one. It displays all the important information, and you can also highlight it if you find the text too small. And there's lots of different displays you can get it to show. All we need are the basics for today, so don't worry about like clicking on transition metals or something. Okay, and then the other thing we're going to be using, we're not going to start off with this, but eventually you'll be able to use this molar mass calculator. Okay, and that looks like this. Okay, so it looks a little bit complicated, but I'll walk you through how to use it, and it should be pretty straightforward. Okay, so I'm going to just flip over to a blank page for a second and explain what molar mass is. Okay, so molar mass, we might calculate it or we might find it for an element, or we might determine it for a compound. For an element, it's pretty easy. We just find the mass on the periodic table. Okay, so we've been looking at that since like grade 9, grade 10 chemistry, just reading the mass number off of the periodic table for an element. For a compound, we just have to total up all the masses of the elements that make it up. Okay, so compounds that have a lot of atoms are going to have high molar masses, and compounds that have a smaller number of atoms are going to have lower molar masses. And then it will also depend on the types of elements that make up the compound. Some elements, like hydrogen or helium, are very light, whereas other elements, like lead or gold, are very heavy. Okay, and then there's lots in between there as well. Now, this word right here, it's probably new. I'm not talking about your teeth. I'm talking about a quantity we use in chemistry called moles. I'm going to just leave that hanging for the first couple lessons here, and we will get to an understanding of what molar refers to. But for now, I just want to kind of focus on where to find the information and how to do the sort of basics of the calculations, okay? So this idea of molar, it's coming. So let's look at an example of each of these. So first, we want the molar mass of an element. So like I said, we can look that information up on the periodic table. So an example of an element would be, say, bromine, which has symbol Br. Okay, so I'm just going to flip back to my periodic table here. And I'm going to look around for Br. And I remember, because chemistry is always on my mind, that bromine is a halogen. It's right here. Okay, so that's bromine. And then the number at the top of the box, That's the atomic number. I don't care about that right now. I'm not dealing with atomic number. What I want is the mass number, the number at the bottom of the box here. And every answer you give today when you're filling in your worksheet should be to 2 decimal places. So when I look at the molar mass of bromine, it's 79.904, but I only want 2 of those decimal places. Okay, so I'm going to write 79.90 as my molar mass. Okay, so it's super easy. You just have to look up the element on the periodic table. The toughest part might be if you kind of forget where that element is on the periodic table, just trying to scan through and find it. Okay, but otherwise, that part, if you're just asked for the molar mass of an element, pretty easy. So if we look at our worksheet here, finding molar masses of elements is your first task. Okay, so I listed, I think 7 elements here, and I want you to just go to the periodic table and find their molar masses and make sure that you're writing them to 2 decimal places. So if I look at something like hydrogen, which is 1.008, that has 3 decimal places, I need to round that to 1.01 to make it 2 decimal places. Okay, and the sheet is going to mark it wrong if you put anything other than 1.01. Okay, even if you put 1.0 or 1.008, has to be 1.01. Okay, just because it's very sensitive to how many numbers, I guess, you include. Okay, so that's your first task, is just looking up these 7 elements on the periodic table, filling in their molar masses. Okay, your next task is going to be a little bit more work. I'm only going to ask you to do this one time for this lesson. You're actually going to go through and show me how to find the molar mass of a compound. Okay, and the compound I've assigned you here is water. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do exactly what I'm looking for, but I'm going to choose a different compound. So you'll be able to follow my steps, but you'll have to come up with the answer yourself for water. Okay, so I'm going to do that example here. Okay, so a compound that I might want to do is, say, ammonia, which has formula NH3. Okay, that's ammonia. Okay, so to get the molar mass, and I'm going to use just a capital M to mean molar mass here rather than writing the word like I did before. That means I need to have the mass of 1 nitrogen plus the mass of 3 hydrogens, because the 3 right here means there are 3 hydrogens. Okay, so 1 nitrogen plus 3 hydrogens. So then I'm going to look up the masses of each of those elements on the periodic table. So I'm going to flip back to here. Okay, and the first one, so I've got nitrogen, 14.007. I'm always working with 2 decimal places today, so I'm going to round that to 14.01. Okay, and then I need 3 hydrogens, so I'm going to keep the 3 there. And then hydrogen's over here. Once again, it gives me an extra decimal place on hydrogen, so I have to round it to 1.01. Okay, and now I need a calculator. I'm going to use the calculator on my desktop to do this. Oh shoot, I forgot to flip back. So this is what I wrote just now, 3 times 1.01. Okay, and then I need a calculator to do that. Maybe some of us can do it in our heads, but let's see how to do it on a calculator. So I'm going to do 14.01 plus 3 times 1.01 equals 17.04. Okay, and you can even do a bit of a mental check here to make sure that makes sense. So I've got 14 plus 3 times so this is about 14, this is about 1. So 14 plus 3 times 1 would be like 14 plus 3. So an answer that's about 17 definitely makes sense here. Okay, so that seems reasonable. And that is the answer. So this is how you show your steps for finding the molar mass. You need the formula of the compound. You break it down into its elements. you look up the masses of each of those elements on the periodic table, and then you use a calculator to add them all up. Okay, so that is what you're going to be doing. You're going to show me those same steps, but for the compound water rather than ammonia. And then you're going to take a picture, you're going to upload it to your Google Drive, and then you're going to click add file, and you're going to be able to put the file in the form. Okay, I don't know how well this is going to work on a phone. I feel like you probably need to be on a tablet or a computer at least, but you might be able to upload from a phone as well. Maybe give me some feedback and let me know if you were able to complete this part of the assignment on a phone. And if you weren't, you can just skip this question and send me an email letting me know. Okay? Okay, so then the next section is, so this time you are welcome to continue to do these on pen and paper if you find that helpful, or you can use this molecular weight calculator. Okay, molecular weight and molar mass are basically the same thing. They can be used interchangeably. And here you can type your chemical formula in, and then you can just get it to calculate the mass for you. Okay, the key here is just typing the chemical formula in correctly. Okay, and so you're given a bunch of different ones. I think there are 6 questions here. So the formulas are all given. I'll show you what one example would be. So let's say you want to get the formula for something like carbon, how about like chloromethane, which has a carbon, it has 3 hydrogens, and it has 1 chlorine. Okay, and if I click calculate here, it's going to tell me that the formula did not parse correctly, meaning that I didn't type in a formula that it makes sense to the website. So then I have to go back in here and I have to think, what did I type in wrong? So first of all, hydrogen is a capital H for its symbol, okay? And then chlorine has symbol capital C, lowercase l. Okay, so capital C, lowercase l. Now the 3 in there makes sense. The 3 following the H means that it'll calculate for 3 H's. Okay, so we just have to make sure we're using the appropriate case. Now, so this one will work. Okay, and it'll give me the total molecular weight right here, no problem. If, however, I accidentally made my L capital as well, it won't recognize that, okay? And it'll tell me formula did not parse correctly, and it won't give me a molar mass. So the only trick here is that you have to be really careful that you're typing your formulas in properly. You don't, however, have to worry about having subscripts, okay? You can just use normal numbers. Rather than a little 3, you can just type 3 in and it'll know what you mean, okay? Click calculate, gives you an answer. Okay, now this stuff in the middle, we will maybe talk a little bit later on in a later lesson about what some of this stuff means. But for now, all you're doing is making sure you type the formula in correctly and then reading the molecular weight from the box at the bottom. Okay? Okay, and then the last section of your form, oh, damn it. I thought I took all the required questions out. Okay, the last section of your form is a little bit tricky in that it gives you only the name of the substance. So you have to actually type the formula in yourself. Okay, so you have to come up with the formula, practicing some of those skills from the beginning of this course. Okay, so sodium chloride, for example, we know is made up of an Na and a Cl. Okay, 1 Na and 1 Cl. And then once you've figured out the formula, you can go in and once again, you can use the calculator, or if you prefer, you can calculate the molar mass using pen and paper. Okay. These should be relatively straightforward. And I want to remind you, if naming or if writing formulas was something you were uncomfortable with earlier in the course, this is a good opportunity to practice, but you are also using a computer. So if you want to look things up to check that you know the correct formula, go ahead and do that. Okay, that's, one of the liberties we can take with remote learning. So this is out of 30 marks. When you submit it, it will tell you your mark when you're done. This right here, don't worry about this. This is just so I can include equations in the form. You don't need to do that though. Okay? I hope this was helpful and I look forward to seeing your work. Thanks. Bye.